The AFERY P210 has a 2,400 watt pure sine wave inverter, over 2,000 watt hours of storage, is incredibly efficient, has whisper quiet fans, can charge from 0 to 100% in a little over 2 hours. It's the equivalent of the much more expensive EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. But is it hampered with fatal flaws, or is it an EcoFlow killer? So now let's jump in what came with it. It came with a manual, of course. It comes with a 2-year warranty. They talk about how you can do up to a 5-year warranty extension on that. It comes with this card so you can download their app. I've already downloaded their app. I will get into that in a little bit. It comes with this, which I haven't opened up yet, but I'm assuming is a cover for it. And it comes with this case that has both the power plug, which is right here, and the MC4 to what looks like Anderson or maybe XT. I'll check into that in a second. Comes with all this, comes with a nice carrying case. So now let's power the unit up. What I'm going to be doing first is charging it, of course, because I'm sure it came, there you go, it's at 28%, so we'll have to charge it up first. I'm going to run it through a series of tests, starting with the capacity test, and it's going to be a high C capacity test. Then we're going to do all sorts of AC load tests. We're going to check some of the DC stuff, and it comes with a ton of DC. I mean, just a ton of DC. I won't be able to get into this that much because I don't have a lot of DC stuff, but it does have everything you could possibly imagine. So I just plugged it in, and while it's doing its initial charging, I wanted to go over some of the tech specs. I will be doing a complete test on the charging, both AC and solar, see how fast it charges, stuff like that. So now let's jump into the specs real quick. It does have a capacity of 2,048 watt hours. It uses Leave brand lithium iron phosphate batteries, which is really good if you're in the know. It does have a 2,400 watt pure sine wave inverter. Does 2-way fast charging. As I mentioned, it has a ton of USB, the stuff I've never even heard of, and we'll get into that in a little bit. It has a UPS mode with a switch over time of less than 10 milliseconds. That is impressive. So that's a quick overview of the specs. While I'm doing the capacity test, I want to talk about 2 things real quick. First one is how quiet the fans are. So listen. I can actually hear my other inverter on the other side of my workshop over these fans. Now I'm doing about a 1200 watt 0.5 C test right now. So a decent test, and they're just whisper quiet. I'm going to be doing more tests later with higher loads, so we'll see what the fans do. But right now, that's very impressive. They are so quiet. Next thing we're going to talk about is their app. To download it, you can just scan that. And I've already done that. You do have to register, which I'm noticing is a trend for all of these other power stations. I don't particularly like that, but that's just what everybody's doing. So I've already downloaded it. It is called BrightEMS, and there it is. So now we're going to add a unit. One thing, even though it has this card, there's nothing in the manual that talks about the app or how to use it or anything about it, or that Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. There's nothing in the manual about any of that. So that's a little disappointing. But let's see how well this thing works. I'm going to click Add Device. It's giving me a bunch of network errors, but it sees the device. Doing this real time. We'll see what happens. If you notice, the Bluetooth Wi-Fi icon has come up on that. And there it's asking for the network. I'm going to set that up later. And there it is. So you can see it's showing all the things that are on the screen. And you have all the same control. So there's, you see AC output. Let's turn AC output off. So you can see AC output has been turned off. Let's turn DC output on. So you can see DC output comes on. So you can do everything from your phone. So it's a nice app. Pretty powerful. Oh, you can even turn the flashlight on. Let's see if that... Let's do that. Ah, look at that. So you even turn the flashlight on. So it's a decent app. So now I'm going to do a capacity test. Take that off. Close that down. Unplug the unit. And let's turn it. One thing that I personally don't care for is the AC is on the side here. I like it when they're front here. And also there's this little lip here, so I can't hook up this directly. So I'm going to have to use an extension cord. These are just personal preference things that I'm not a big fan of. So I'm going to plug in my space heater to the kilowatt meter. On the other ones I've used, it's been like a 1C test. Because this one is so powerful, it's not going to be a full 1C test, but it's still going to be a pretty good test. Let's turn on the AC. Turn it on by clicking this button. See, it instantly comes up. Let's see what the voltage is. Let's go through here. The voltage is low. Voltage coming out is basically 110 volts. I'd like to see 120 there, but again, that's what it is. So let's plug in the space heater. So there's the amount of watts going through. The unit is saying 1180. This is saying 1186, so that's very, very good. I'm going to put it on time lapse. The AC testing is always my favorite part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a small half horsepower motor, and I'm going to apply a load that gets progressively heavier and heavier and heavier until we end up with this 2.5 horsepower Harbor Freight air compressor. I'm going to use this to make sure we don't get any weird voltage drops, and then if it can power all of these things single, then I'm going to apply multiple and see if we can get to that 2400 watts, see if it can stay there and hold there. And then if we do get overcurrent airs, how does the unit respond? How quickly can it recover from that type of an air? On the miter saw, I'm just going to cut a couple of pieces of 2x4. Everything else I'm going to run for 30 seconds. So we're going to start with the small half horsepower motor. Next up is a small air compressor. Next up is a good sized shop vac. Now we have a heat gun. Well, no surprise that it ran all of those fine. Now for the final one, which is my air compressor. And it's not able to start it. Let's try that one more time. Nope, it is not able to start the 2.5 horsepower air compressor. So for the next round, I'm going to do multiple devices. I have a heat gun, small air compressor, and a decent sized shop vac. Alright, I did not like that. That voltage dropped way too low. So I'm going to try some different loads because I want to see if I can get to that 2400 output. This test, I'm going to do a space heater and the heat gun. Space heater's on. We're at about 1200 watts. The voltage is decent. Let's try this heat gun now. So that did pretty good, but I want to get to that 2400, so I've added a small grinder. Start this test up again. So it was able to hold 2400, actually a teeny bit over 2400 for over a minute. So it performed very well. The voltage dropped a little bit, but it's starting at such a low number. It didn't drop too much like before where it dropped into the 80s. Let's see what our... So we maxed out here at 2000, basically 2100 according to the watt meter. But according to this, we were doing a little over 2400. I think the low voltage output on this is playing into that. But it can output pretty good amount. So I want to point out something that I just noticed. I'm charging it up, so it's plugged in, and just check this out. So now the voltage is much higher than it's been. It's basically almost 10 volts higher. So I started thinking, I wonder if it'll start my air compressor now. So check this out. Yeah, so when it's hooked up to AC, to the grid, the voltage is higher and it can start this unit. So now check this out. I'm doing this live, no cuts. I unplug it. See, it's 88%, so it's pretty much full. Right back out here. Now see, the voltage has dropped to under 110. And it can't start it. I'm just recording what I find while I'm doing my test. This may disappoint some of you out there, but I'm not going to be testing the USB or DC. I just don't have any of these devices. I mean, I have USB A and C, but it's like a phone, so it's not going to be much. And I'm definitely not going to do a capacity test on a 10 or 20 watt device. But I will go over what it has, because it does have a lot. To start with, it has DC, and to turn the DC on, just press this button, turn it off, press it on. It has what I call the cigarette lighter adapter. It can do 10 amps. It has these DC outputs that can do 3 amps each, and then it does have an XT60 that can do 25 amps. And then as far as USB, I mean, it has everything, and I'll list what these are below, because some of them I don't even know what they are, but it does look like it has USB A, USB C. So anything you need to power USB or DC, this can handle, but I'm not going to be doing a capacity or efficiency test on that, because again, I just don't have these devices. So I apologize for that. So a couple other features that people might be interested in. It does have a light, and you can do different modes on it. It does have this little kangaroo pouch, which is great for storing the MC4 adapter. Now the final test of the P210 is the charging. It can do car charging. It doesn't come with a car charging cable, so I didn't do any of that. I did test the AC charging and the solar panel charging, and the AC and solar panel charging combined. So let's talk about the AC charging. In the manual, it says it can do 0 to 100% charging in 2 hours and 1100 watts. Now it easily did 1100 watts up until the end where it starts slowing down, but it took over 2 hours to do it. Not quite 2.5 hours, but over 2 hours every time I tested it, and I tested it a lot of times. Now the solar panels can take a maximum of 500 watts. You have to keep the voltage under 500 volts. So what I did is I used 2 old 250 watt panels that can do 37 volts. So I put them in parallel, and it performed well. The MPPT charge controller inside this unit is excellent. It was getting almost 75% of standard test conditions, and that's as good as when I use my Victron, because these are old panels and the conditions today are not that great. We had clouds come through a few times. There's a lot of dust in the air. So the solar charge controller in this unit is excellent. I think if you combine the AC and the solar with 2 really nice panels on a nice sunny day, I bet you can get it under 2 hours in charging. So the charging was pretty good. Not excellent, but a lot better than a lot of power stations that I've tested in the past. So that wraps up my testing. Now I'm going to give you the summary of my experience using the unit. I'm going to give you 4 things I didn't like about the unit and 10 things that I really did like about the unit. I'm going to start with the 4 things I didn't like. starting from kind of annoying, just personal preferences, to something that I thought was a pretty big deal. So number one is, I don't like that the AC output is over here. I don't like this lip. I don't like that the button's here. It's just clunky. I personally would have preferred them to be up front. Next up is, I don't like the icons. They're small, confusing, and you never really know when the unit's on, especially if you're outside. I'll give you an example. So if you turn on the AC, it shows that symbol. And I know it's a sine wave, but it's confusing. It should have said AC on it. When you turn on the USB, it shows you a USB connector, but it's still kind of like, what? And then when you do the DC, it shows you icons. It shows you cigarette icon, it shows you the XT icon, but it's just confusing. And again, when you're outside, you can't see them. So I did not like the icons on the unit. Number three, when you're using solar panels and AC, it doesn't break down what percentage is what. It just says X amount of energy coming into the unit. I would have liked to have seen what the solar panels were doing and what the AC was doing. Again, not a deal breaker, but it was kind of annoying. Number four is a pretty big one for me, and that is low voltage. It starts out low. You can see here it's not even 110 volts. That should be 120 volts. Then when you apply a load, it drops a little bit more. And then if you do a load that's over 2400 watts, instead of getting an overcurrent error and the unit shutting down, it'll lower the voltage. I was seeing low 80s before I stopped the test. That's just bad. I don't like that at all. That's something that they need to address. It's a nice unit, but to have voltage that low is just unacceptable to me. All right, so enough of me complaining. Now I'm going to tell you the 10 things I liked about the unit. First off, it's a great value. It is under $600. That is incredible. This is a 2400 watt inverter, over 2000 watt hours of stored energy, and it's under 600 bucks. The value per watt is just outstanding. So number one is the price. It is staggering how inexpensive this unit is. So next up is the size. It is impressively small. It's the size of units that have half the power and half the capacity. So I don't know how their engineers did it, but they were able to fit all of that stuff into a box that is the same size as units with half the stuff going on. So number three is it has a nice app. In today's world, you have to have a Bluetooth app. It's a requirement. This app is really nice. You can use everything on the unit in your app on your phone. So it's required now, it's expected now, and their app is very nice. Number four is the fans. They are incredibly quiet. Even under heavy loads where they're charging or discharging, the fans are quiet. It is amazing because I've done a lot of these and the fans are always jet engines on these units, and this one is quiet. So number 5 and 6 are kind of related. Number 5 is the capacity. This unit has over 2,000 watt hours of capacity. In this little box is 2,000 watt hours of energy. That's just a huge amount of energy. And number 6 related to that, those 2,000 watt hours of stored energy have incredible efficiency. It has 88% efficiency. That is just really, really good. 90 is considered amazing. 80 is considered the minimum, and it's pushing almost into 90% efficiency. So that means with everything going on, all the fans, all the screen, you get to use 88% of that stored 2,000 plus watt hours of energy. So when you buy a power station, your ultimate need is your outputting stuff. So number 7 is the output. 2,400 watt pure sine wave inverter that can output the power over and over again. Heavy loads, whatever you want to throw at it, tools, microwaves, doesn't matter. It can output 2,400 watts over and over again. Solid 2,400 watt pure sine wave inverter. So number 8 is the AC charging. It can charge from 0 to 100 in a little over 2 hours. That's 2,048 watt hours of energy that can be recharged with AC alone in a little over 2 hours. That's so much better than other units on the market that I've tested. I really like that. So at number 9, we're going to stick with charging. It has a really nice MPPT solar charge controller. It can do 500 watts and you just got to keep it under 50 volts open circuit. It was very efficient even using old crappy solar panels, so I thought it was a really nice charge controller. So number 10, click the link in the description below and you can get this for under 600 bucks. So price, we started with price, we end at price. Price, 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 price. This thing is an incredible value. All of that power, the quiet fans, the output, the charging, under 600 bucks. It's just an incredible value. If anyone out there has used this or used anything like it or similar, love to hear what you have to say about it. Please leave a comment below. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Really helps out the channel. And I will talk to everyone soon.